Hi you guys, welcome to our online learning class. Today we're going to be talking about this essential question. So basically, by the end of class, you should be able to answer this question. How can you apply the volume formula for a sphere to solve mathematics problems? So we know we're looking to find volume, and we know we are dealing with spheres. Now, if you wonder what a sphere is just a three-dimensional circle. So what you would see in a basketball or perhaps a globe of the world, that is what we're talking about when we say sphere. Now, if you notice here is our formula. And our formula says volume equals 4/3 times pi times r to the third power. What I want you to do on your paper is go ahead and write that down. And then we're going to go ahead and show you an easier version of it, I would say, the version that we like to use because it just helps us break everything down. So over on the left-hand side of the paper, I'm going to go ahead and have you write down this other version. If at any time you need to pause the video to write things down, please feel free. So on the left-hand side of your paper, you're going to go ahead and write volume equals 4 times pi times r times r times r. The reason why I write all of those things out is especially because the r to the third power, sometimes our brain wants to multiply r times 3, but it's essentially r times r times r. And then when we're all done multiplying, we're going to do one last step, that is divide by 3. So these two formulas are the same exact thing, just two different ways of writing them. I prefer the one in blue simply because I don't like to multiply times fractions. I just like to multiply the top and then divide by 3 on the bottom. It's up to you which one you prefer to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through two examples today. And make sure you're paying attention to the directions because those are going to be very important. So let's look at the first one. It says find the volume, so we know we need to use this formula, of the sphere in terms of pi. That's an important piece of our directions. What it's saying is at the end, we want pi in our answer. Now, if you go over to the left-hand side, I want you to go ahead and write pi equals, and we all know this already, 3.14. In this case, they don't want us to put in 3.14. They just want us to leave it as pi. So I'll show you what we're talking about. Now, we all know we've been talking about radius and diameter. And just a quick reminder, just in case you're just joining us, radius is half the distance, whereas diameter would be the whole distance across. So in this case, we already know what the radius is. It's 12 meters. So let's go ahead and solve this first one. The first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and write the formula down. We know we need volume, and we know we need pi at the end of our answer. So 4 times pi times r times r times r. And when we're all done, we're going to divide by 3. So let's go ahead and fill in this piece of information. We know volume equals, that's what we're looking for. The first piece of information I know for sure is 4 because it's there for us. So I'm going to rewrite 4. Pi, we need to leave it just pi because they want that in the answer. And then my radius. In this case, my radius is 12 meters. So I'm just going to put 12 times 12 times 12. And then when we're all done, we're going to divide this by 3. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and pull up your calculator and on your Google Chromebook or your cell phone, whatever it is that you have, and let's go ahead and multiply this out. So in my calculator, I'm going to put in 4 times 12 times 12 times 12, and I'm just going to leave that pi at the end, okay? So that's the first thing I want you to do in your calculator. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm typing in 4 times 12 times 12 times 12. And hopefully you got 6,912. Now we can't forget this pi at the end, so we'll go ahead and put the pi there. And we can't forget that 3 at the bottom. So now let's see if we can simplify this thing. So I'm going to write v equals, once again, in your calculator, go ahead and type in 6,912. And don't forget this fraction bar always means division. So I want you to hit divided by 3. And if you did it correctly, you should get 2,304. We're almost done. Let me show you this last piece here. 2,304. And don't forget we need pi at the end because that's what our answer, our directions ask for. And then what's something that's very important is our measurement. So that is meters to the third power, or cubed. So that to the third power is very important because it tells us we multiplied our radius 3 times. So our final answer is our volume of the sphere is 2,304 pi meters cubed. So it asked for pi at the end, so we just left it at the end. At this point, I would really like you to try example 2 on your own to see if you can get it without any help. We do have to notice something here. It's asking for volume again, but in this case, it tells us to round our answer to the nearest tenths place. So if you're still a little bit maybe questioning or confused, you can just walk through it with us. But if you're daring, go ahead and try it on your own, and then afterwards fast forward the video to see if the answer is correct. So if you're sticking with me, it's asking for volume. So the first thing I do is I write out my volume formula. Volume equals 4 times pi times r times r times r. And that's all being divided by 3. So let's go ahead and begin to determine some important information. What is my radius? That means what is the distance from one end to the middle? So half the distance of 7. So the first thing I have to do is to find my radius. I'm going to have to divide 7 by 2. So let's do that. Let's put it into our calculator. I'm going to type in 7 divided by 2 because I'm cutting it in half. And I got 3.5 inches. So my radius is 3.5 inches. Okay, that's an important part of our problem. We can't just plug in 7. We have to make sure we know what the radius is. Okay, so let's start plugging all of this in. The first thing I know is my 4. In this case, I know what pi is. In this case, they want us to just have a number for an answer, so we're going to put in 3.14. And I know my radius is 3.5 times 3.5 times 3.5. Now, you notice here, I have a lot of dots going on. So if you don't like to write multiplication that way, you can also do it with parentheses, since we have multiplication signs and decimals going on. So if you like that better, please feel free to do that. Okay, that's a decimal there. And then we can't forget, we're dividing by 3 at the end. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put into our calculator this top section here. We're just going to multiply that. So go ahead and, on your calculator, I want you to type in 4 times 3.14 times 3.5 times 3.5 times 3.5. And if we did it correctly, we should have 538.51. We're not quite done. We did the top, now we have to worry about the bottom. So now let's divide by 3. So this is the rest of our problem. So let's go ahead and type this into our calculator one more time. 138.51, and we're going to divide by 3. Because don't forget, this means division, that fraction bar. Okay, so I went ahead and got this big, long decimal. I'm going to stop it right there because we don't even need to go that far. And it says to round to the 10th place. So the 10th place, if I think of the number 10, I know there's 1 0. So the 10th place is always one place after the decimal. So here's my decimal. So I have to round it to here. So I look at this number. And we've already done this rounding before, but just in case you forgot, if this number is less than 5, then we're just going to leave it. So in this case, our final answer is V equals 179.5. If this number was 5 or bigger, we would have rounded up to 6, but it wasn't 5 or bigger, so we leave it 179.5. Now don't forget our measurements, our units of measurement, inches, right? So it's inches, and don't forget it's cubed. The reason why it's cubed is because we multiply these r's 3 times. So the answer is cubed. So at this point, you should be able to have written down both of the examples. What I would like you to do is just look over your notes, because in the next 2 days, you're going to be doing some practice using this formula.